Hello everybody, welcome back to the Everyday Patch. It's been a little bit busy around here, so apologies for the later video. So at the beginning of, about 2 weeks ago, I created this little trellis for my pumpkins because I noticed that we were getting a couple of little female fruits starting. So all I did was 4 longer bamboo canes and then snipped some shorter ones down and weaved them through. The plan is I will get some netting of some sort to be able to clip them up and take the weight off the plant. So we created that, snipped the edges, and then we had a little tidy up of the pumpkin plant just by snipping off some of the lower leaves. They were getting bent and snapped by myself and the dog as we were going past. I have sped up a couple of little videos as well, as I always do, just because if I'm doing the same old thing, you don't want to sit for an hour watching that. So as you can see, there's plenty of pollination going on. There's lots of fruits, zucchinis, we've got plenty of raspberries and strawberries on the go as well. I did also decide to remove the bean plants just because they'd stopped producing. Now this was a little bit tricky because the nasturtiums had decided to go around them. So I removed the clips and snipped them, and then I untangled them eventually in between snipping off the lower leaves of my zucchinis. ADHD prevented this job happening in one straight swoop. So I snipped the bottoms there. Obviously you can see that I am not pulling out the roots directly. Yeah, so I leave the roots in. I just snip the bottoms and then I've unweaved everything. As you can see, I have moved on to snipping some leaves off the golden zucchini. It can be a bit tricky when you're gardening. I tend to start one job and then end up doing 3, 4, 5 others. I'm sure there are many other people like that. And I did the same again with the black zucchini and the long white zucchini, just snipping off leaves as I go. Again, apologies for the camera angle. I think I may invest in a chest mount for my phone and hope that gets some better angles because the tripod just isn't doing it for me. So I'm having to hold as I snip and move things, and yeah, not the best cameraman in the world. So all I do with my zucchinis and pumpkins and things like that is the lower leaves from the very bottom of the stalk I snip as I go, as it grows. It just gives it a little bit more airflow. There's the cat in my plant. I often find her just chilling somewhere. I did also find a rogue bean. It was absolutely huge. The guinea pigs enjoyed that. As you can see, I am just trying to unweave the bean stalks there from the nasturtiums without damaging as many as I can. Again, apologies on the camera, it's a bit crazy. And everything I chop off, so the leaves from the courgettes and the beanstalks all goes into the composter. And then obviously the nasturtiums are already happy because I've just took the support away, so I've just used some clips there to help keep them up just for the time being. And we've also harvested this long white zucchini courgette. I've done really well with these in the buckets this year. They have produced so many already. I think I've got another 2 at the minute outside on the go, 2 black zucchinis. And again, just snipping any, once they start breaking, they just aren't happy, so it's easy to just snip them off, get them out the way, get them in the composter. I have also this week snipped off all my lamb's lettuce, which is this. I've popped it in a little brown bag and then I let it dry out for a bit longer and then shake the seeds from it, which I will also show you. I've also gone round with these brown bags and collected the heads of a few of my flowers, which will also be shown. Just weeding as I go as well, of course. Got rid of anything that wasn't doing too well. I've got rid of a couple of the brassicas and things, just because at this point in the year, if it's not doing well, I might as well get it out and get some quick growing plants in. So that's the lamb's lettuce that I'll allow to flower and go to seed. As you can see there, as you rub the head of the flower, the seeds just drop off from it. But it's a lot easier to do once they are dried, so hence the paper bag. And then just leave it. I pop it on my maiden where my clothes go, and just lay the bags flat, and then they dry out easy enough. Like I say, I do this with my flowers as well. So this is my cosmos. So just pull off the flower heads that are already wilted, dying. So a lot of the time they dry on the actual plant, and I tend to find that it's easier if they're already dried on the plant, just because the seeds are a lot drier. It's easier to remove them then. So I will leave a few on the plant to seed, and then pick them. As you can see, some of them are looking a bit crispy because of the sun we've had, but that's absolutely perfect because you can just literally just rub the flower head and those seeds will just come away. Now with the cosmos, I was a little bit like, oh, confused, because looks like there's two types of seeds on it. There's like a long black seed and a small fluffy one. So I've kept both versions, we'll see. Well, like I say, I put it in these larger brown bags first and let them dry out, and then I'll bring them in the house and separate the seeds from the flower petals and things like that, because if you leave them in with it, they will end up going mouldy by next year. You want to try and keep the seeds as dry as you can, so in a little envelope is perfect. Now I will collect more as the year goes on, but I just wanted to do a little video while I was doing it anyway, just to show how easy it is if you're deadheading your flowers anyway, just to pick them off, let them dry out for a week or two. Oh, there's the garlic I managed to get out of the bed as well. Little but powerful. We'll try again for garlic this year and we'll see what comes up. Lovely little poppy there. I've had a couple of poppies pop up this year. I'm not actually quite sure with a poppy. Presumably it does do its own seeds like most flowers do, but I'm not quite sure how to harvest them yet, so it's something to research for future purposes. Onto the marigolds. Now I find marigolds beautiful, so I have them everywhere. And obviously we all know they're very beneficial for our plants and bees and other insects. So with the marigold, I tend to try and leave it as long as I can to dry out, just because, again, it's easier to remove the seeds. You can then literally just pull off the flower petals and break it up, and the seeds are there. Now, I have been told, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, that if the seeds aren't like a dark black, to not use them. Apparently they won't grow, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. That's just what I've been told. So like I say, I will pick the marigold heads, just the same as all the other flowers, pop them in a bag, let them dry out a little bit longer, and then separate them into a smaller envelope. But with your nasturtiums, you tend to find once they are finished, the little seed head, like this, will pop at the end, and once that dries up and sort of, well, you'll know when it's dried enough, then you can just literally just pick it off and pop that in a bag. Same with things like sweet peas. It will produce a pea pod, let that dry, and then harvest the peas from inside. And there you go, you can see how easy it is for those seeds to just pop out of the manigolds when it's dry. I love the nasturtium, they just seem to go everywhere, and you just little splashes of colour all over your garden. And now again, I'm not sure with them dahlias whether they seed, presumably they do. But I'm not sure how to harvest those yet, so that's something I will have to experiment with and try out. And that is my marigolds for the time being. That's Lucy. So normally Ember is the black dog, she is my dog. That is Lucy, my friend's dog, which is my dog's sister. And there's my sweet pea pods, so I will leave them on the plant to dry out. Once they've dried out, I will remove them and take the seeds out. I can't actually remember what these flowers are called. I'll have the packet for them somewhere, but these are again the same. Allow them to dry out, and then literally you can just rub those seeds off into another packet and keep them ready for planting next year. They were quite tough, some of these, to get off, even though I had allowed them to dry out. But yeah. You can also do the same with beans and peas, in the sense of with the pods, leave a few on and allow them to dry out, and then save them for next year to plant again. I've actually left my peas that are in the little baskets on the fence to now dry out and produce next year's pea seeds. I'm hoping for a second crop with the ones I've just planted a couple of days ago. Well, I think it was about a week ago now. I tend to find, especially when I'm looking around my garden, you get a lot of flowers that just grow because they've been blown through. So just allow them to grow, that's fine. This is the celery plant I was leaving to seed, but I'm not quite sure what the seeds are supposed to look like, because what I was expecting is not what is coming off the plant. They were a lot smaller than what I was expecting. So we're going to leave it a couple more days, let it dry out, and then clip some off and see what we get. So in my veg patch, I removed the cabbage and things like that, and a couple of other bits that was getting decimated by the caterpillars. So I've organised and put a few other little bits in and tried to give some things some room, like the beetroot, and put my leeks in and things. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll just remove anything that's not doing well. I think the plan will be this bed will be used for my squashes and things like that next year, and put all my brassicas up and out the way and netted properly. The slugs seem to love this little crop plot. Caterpillars too, but the slugs more so. There's just no stopping them. So yeah, I think next year we'll be doing brassicas in pots netted, and then leave this as more of a salad bar squash arena. I did, as you can see in this video, test putting out some purple broccoli and sprouts in here. Now I have saved some back and put them in containers, but I just wanted to see, just for my own dumb-mindedness of, let's see if they don't get eaten, which they did, which is fair enough. It's my own fault for putting them in there. The leeks are still doing okay then. And as I finished taking out the bits and bobs that were done, I did a sprinkling of things like rocket and succession things and some lamb's lettuce and some other bits and bobs that will begin and give us a good crop before the end of the season, and hopefully continue through winter, and give us a bit of an early spring crop as well, hopefully. Now I'll put the iceberg lettuce in here. To be honest, I'm not really expecting to get a big crop, but it will mean that I will get a couple of leaves for my salads for another couple of weeks. So I'm happy enough with that. I'm putting the lamb's lettuce back in there where it was, and some over there. Now, as you can see, I'm not spacing anything out. I'm not even pushing them into the dirt. I am literally just sprinkling them, because what I will do, what I did later on, is I went round with a handful of compost everywhere and just give everything a little topping of compost. So they didn't need burying in too much, they just needed a little bit of a sprinkle. We do see what grows. Sprinkle it round, we'll see what grows, we'll see what works where. If it doesn't, we'll move it next year. Now people always say, oh, you can't grow that with that. Well, you'll find out if you just throw the seed in. You'll be surprised. As you can see there, just give it a little ruffle, and that just sort of lets the seed settle, and then if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, well, it didn't. So I had a big helper with my potatoes. We thought we'd test out the first bag that we planted, obviously quite a while ago now, just to see how that bag was getting on, and to see what we needed to do with our other bags, if we needed to add more water, if it needed a little bit more compost tea. So Isaac helped me search through the mud, which is one of his favourite jobs. We did get a decent little harvest from it, but we learnt that the soil was quite dry, so they did need quite a bit more water in, so we've adjusted that for our other bags of potatoes in the hopes that we get a little bit more of a crop in those. But all the same, we enjoyed digging in the dirt, and we enjoyed eating some spuds on our Sunday roast. Digging for spuds is one of those jobs that it's just so wholesome with the kids, because it doesn't matter how old they seem to get, it's like, oh my god, there's a spud. Absolutely fantastic to see. Apologies if you can hear Ember snoring in the background, by the way. It is 10 o'clock at night and I'm doing my voiceover because it has been such a chocker week. I thought if I don't do it now, I'll not get time. So all the little bits of roots we keep separate, and any like little potatoes. And as you can see, I am sifting through each handful as I put it in the back in the bag, just to make sure there's no tiny potatoes, because as we know, that will start off the process all over again. So we're just making sure that there's nothing left in there, so that we can use this soil with other things. So next year when I come to pot up things again, it will be a little bit of this, a little bit of compost, because as we know, the majority of the time, if you try and go something directly from this mud, it won't have enough nutrients in it after potatoes have grown in it. It does need that extra bit of a boost. So I tend to use this as sort of a potting mix, and mix it in with compost to sort of balance it out again. Or I will mix it with the compost from the composter and throw a little bit in there. And so as you can see, we did get a few spuds, but not necessarily as much as we hoped for. 2 tiny garlics, a bean, a cabbage, a zucchini and a spider. So as you can see, it's been about a week or two, and the marigold heads have dried out that little bit more. So I'm going to write marigold on an envelope and the date 2026. I don't bother with the day and the month. And I literally just pull the petals heads off. So that's the orangey bits. And then you are left with the seeds inside the little pod bit. You just give them a pull. It's almost fluffy, the ends. If you just give them a little pull, the seeds are inside. And as I say, they tend to be black with a white tip. As I say, somebody told me that if they're not quite as dark as that they're not viable. As you can see here, I've got some that aren't quite dark. But I will pop some of these in, just so I'll do a little test next year, and I'll see if they'll grow any different to the dark ones. So that's all I'm going to do, is just pull off the petal heads and then empty out the seeds. And it is that easy. The flower does the work for you. All you have to do is collect the heads. And as I say, if you can literally leave the flower head on the flower and let it dry out there, and just pick it off when it's crispy, and pop it in an envelope, and then just do this of an evening when you're watching your soaps or what have you. So I would say I got a couple of 100 seeds out of doing this. Now, not that marigold seeds are very expensive, but if it saves me a couple of quid, it saves me a couple of quid, and why not? You will also find that sometimes you don't even need to do this. The flower heads will drop off and go in the soil, so if you're not churning your soil too much, they will tend to come back anyway. But it's always handy to collect a few seeds and have them as backups. I did this with all of the flower head seeds that I collected, but I just didn't want to bore you going through the whole process. It's pretty much the same for most flowers. You just need to get inside that middle casing once they're dry, or even some people open them up beforehand and then put them on like a baking tray and allow them to dry out that way. Whatever floats your boat, the process works the same. You're just drying out the flowers, drying out the seeds, and popping them in a safe space ready for next year, and making sure they're dated. And here's the front garden, the little garden tour to finish off. The tomatoes are doing absolutely brilliantly at the front this year. It's definitely my new spot for my tomatoes, I think. We normally have to ripen our tomatoes inside the house. And all 3 sunflowers have popped. Isaac's and one other sunflower isn't quite there yet, but here's hoping. And we have got some of our plum tomatoes. They're growing quite well. They still need fattening up a little bit. And Isaac's trough. We wouldn't really call it a trough, that, but you know, Isaac's growing space. And there's the strawberries we planted a few weeks ago, the little tiny seedlings. So yeah, it's looking pretty good at the front. Plenty of marigolds, obviously. And this is my chilli plant. Now my pepper plant, my sweet pepper plant died. It wasn't happy. It went all sad, droopy and keeled over. But it was right next to this, and this is doing fantastic. Plenty of chilies on there, a good size on them as well, so I'm very happy with that. And I am so impressed with this. Look how big that is already. So yeah, hopefully we're gonna have a couple of cute little pumpkins ready for Halloween. As you can see, the courgettes are doing well, still producing quite often. I'm going to have to cut this one off soon, but I'm not quite ready for another one. I've still not gone through the ones that are in the house. And we've got some cucumbers starting on our cucumber plant. Now these were a little bit late in the season because my first ones died, so these are the second lot. So hopefully we get a couple of little cucumbers off that. And there's my peas that I'm leaving to dry out so that I can save the pods. And we've got what is left of the crop plot. As you can see, it's very much been decimated. I've pinched up my cauliflower. I've got half a cabbage left. As you can see, there's a caterpillar enjoying his evening meal. I'm just going to leave him there. My stadiums are doing quite well. I have planted some more peas and things in here, hoping for an extra crop, but we'll see. And a golden zucchini. That's looking a bit more green than golden, but as long as it cuts up and the guinea pigs eat it, that's all that bothers me. So we've had a couple of weeks of some great growing, some fantastic harvests, some lessons learnt, but that's what gardening's all about. Hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I will see you again next time.